Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Brandon from Comixkings. Welcome, everybody, back to the 10th episode of Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame, the show where we take two key issues under a similar theme. We compare the two. One has to belong in the Hall of Fame. One has to belong in the Hall of Shame. Joining me, as always, is Ryan from Ryan Comic Reviews. How are you doing, bro?
I'm great. Super excited. The last one we did was on the Robins, and we kind of got the birth of one of the Robins, and now we obviously are moving on to, a grimmer topic.
Yes, and you're a big Batman fan, so you're like in heaven. We've been talking about Batman for the past 2 weeks. No, we took a break last week, so two weeks. And then we are joined by the man himself, John's Comics with Kids. How you doing, man? Thank you for joining us tonight.
Heck yeah, man. Absolutely. You said, hey, do you want to try something out? And I was like, deaths of characters? Absolutely. And obviously, I am a huge fan of these two stories. So, yes.
Why don't you show off what you got there?
Okay, so, yeah. I mean, when I got back into collecting a handful of years ago and started doing YouTube, one of the first things my wife got for me, and she doesn't usually buy stuff for me, but she saw a pair of these and knew what a huge fan I am of this particular storyline. And, of course, the run from these all the way through the first Punisher. And so she found a pair of 7.5s and that and then right afterwards, sorry, Ryan, but she also got me a giant size X-Men right after this. That was the other book. And then this, my buddy Matt, the boy who had 7, loves 9.8 White Pages books, and he wanted to give me this book in a 9.8, but he was too expensive, so he found a raw copy that he felt for sure would meet the grade. And I sent it in and got it pressed clean and sent it in, and it popped a 9.8. So, yeah. The Mignola cover, like the Mignola signature there.
The Mignola signature, that's iconic.
I mean, a Mignola cover, and then, Jason Todd. What a powerful storyline. So I'm excited to talk about these.
Right, and these are two of the biggest deaths in comics. So that you can't really go wrong with any of these, which is why I love doing this show, especially because when Ryan and I disagree, it can be very heated, if you guys remember from the giant size X-Men episode. But let's say what's up to the chat real quick. Travis Station from Krakoa. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Travis reminds me of Cypher a lot. I don't know if anyone else can relate. But for Krakoa. We got HK Wifey 420. No longer 420, but let's do this, she says. Yes, sir. And we got Sith Lordly in here, who is just on with No Good Comics, Chamorro, and myself.
He goes to my LCS, and I have never met up with him. The guys at my LCS, he always texts me, hey, I'm going over there now. And I'm like, I can't make it. So I will definitely meet up with him at some point.
Yeah, plan in advance. Sundays are usually best for him, apparently.
Oh, okay. There you go then.
We got Jen from Comics Will Break Your Heart. How are you doing? Thank you for being here today. We got Nick Comic Culture. Thank you so much for joining. Station to you. And we got Missing Link in the house. How are you doing? He's saying what's up to me. He don't care. We got Bright Hillbilly Comics, a co-host of Weekly Wrap Up. Oh my gosh, this chat is jumping on me. I feel like Justin. Got Captain Comics in here. Lamer Frame business partner right there.
I'm going to be on there tomorrow, and I'm on there tomorrow. I'm drawing with the Lamer Frame crew tomorrow. So
what's the theme?
It's Dungeons and Dragons with markers.
No way. Dungeons and Dragons with markers, bro.
It's my jam.
So just have your die trade paperback sitting right there.
right, ready to go. Just hold it up. Stephanie Hans did this, but I did it too.
I did it better.
Right? Sith Lordly, I'm going to be there tomorrow evening. If you're going to the shop tomorrow evening, I'll be there check with me on Instagram. 4:30, I'm usually there.
Hit him up. John's pretty cool. He's not bad.
You've hung out with me on shows. You know that I'm not.
You don't know in real life. But
yeah, right.
Back to the show. As we talked about earlier, we're talking about two iconic deaths. We got Spiderman number 121 going up against Batman 428. The deaths of Gwen Stacy and Jason Todd. Two deaths that are still talked about today. So let's bring out the slideshow, and we're still going to keep addressing the chat. If you guys got a question or comment, drop it here. You'll be on the show forever. Opening thumbnail. I've never done this before. Full screen layout. There we go. How do I do this?
I use my arrows on my keyboard, and it advances the screen.
Yeah, I'm hitting the keyboards, but it's
You've got to be on the slideshow, not on our StreamYard.
Yeah.
okay. So we got Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame. We got the thumbnail. Oh wait, that's the end of it. All right, so I'm
There
so
we
sorry,
go.
guys. It's the first time for me doing this, but there we go. We got 428, the cover by Jim Starlin and Jim Aparo, and then we got Spider-Man. That's a cover by this is by Jerry Kane, Jerry Conway. Let's get into Spider-Man first. It's a John Romita cover, as John showed us earlier. What do you guys think of this cover?
Well, I guess I'll go first. It's really iconic. You've seen. Odds are, if you've ever read a comic book, you've seen this cover, and you look around and you look at all of these people, and just not to get ahead of ourselves, but jumping into the issue, any one of them technically is on the chopping block. I think all of them except for 2 on this cover actually make an appearance, which I think is
Right, John. What are your first thoughts?
I mean, I do absolutely love and adore this cover. I do think it's hilarious that this iconic cover is just basically Spidey's butt. Like, I think that's definitely entertaining to me. But I love the concept, the idea that he's like freaking out and that something huge is going to go down, but they're not revealing any of it. You don't even get the Green Goblin here on the cover, even though he's so pivotal in this issue. I love the yellow background too. Yellow background covers are always boss.
I completely agree.
100%. That they wanted this to be a mystery. Obviously, as it tends to unravel, some of the elements in this story are not so mysterious.
Wait, hold on. I just noticed something. If you look when he says, "My spider sense is never wrong," it's actually right next to Gwen Stacy. So maybe that's a little thing.
Hint, hint.
Hint, hint. It's also right next to Jonah Jameson's cigar, so you never know. All right, and then we got Harry. We open up with Harry. One too many tabs. He is definitely LSD, and Norman and his doctor, kind of like his plug, they're taking care of him, making sure he's okay. And he's joined by Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane. It's cool to see Mary Jane in here. As you guys know, she'll later be Spider-Man's girlfriend. Right now, it's Gwen. What do you guys think of how we're opening up?
I just think the title of the slide is really funny. Maybe a bit insensitive, but I mean, I think when we get into Batman, I'll talk about it. But clearly, writers wanted to get away from the hokey, kind of like Silver Age kind of storytelling and move into these like more complex issues. So we see, in the backdrop of these 2 deaths, we see in this, drug abuse and drug overdose and everything. And with Batman, we see like international politics. Right. So I think it's really cool that you can see the transition. And obviously these are 2 iconic writers, but the transition from kind of the hokey storytelling to more, these are real world stuff going on.
Right. And this definitely does touch on a lot of issues that we even see today. I know, like, especially people our age, Ryan, dealing with drugs. And I don't know about you, but I've actually had people that have passed from drug overdose recently. John, what are your first thoughts on how we're opening up?
I think it's really powerful. I do totally agree with what Ryan is saying about transitioning from the Silver Age. And I know a lot of my friends and I kind of feel pretty strongly that this book kind of marks a real strong end to the Silver Age, a real strong beginning to a Bronze Age, and an era when heroes routinely can and will fail. And, that Silver Age is pretty routinely heroes win, bad guys lose. And I think it's the real world issues combined with real world failures, I think make for very grounded heroes and become kind of a cornerstone of Marvel and DC.
Right. I agree 100%. The Bronze Age definitely did take the turn, and Spider-Man's character himself is mostly about that struggle
Totally.
And many times and whatever he's doing. All right. And then we get Peter. He's trying to come in. He swings by as Spider-Man, quickly changes, and he gets turned away at the door by Norman. And we get a little bit of a recap going on of their iconic relationship. Well, probably one of the best villain hero relationships in comics going on in here.
So, we get it's only fitting that in these two iconic stories, the heroes face off against their arch nemesis,
Right.
which is really awesome because you feel like it's kind of like a cop out if it's anybody else but the main villain.
Right. And all Peter wanted to do, he just wanted to be there for Norman, and Norman's like, yeah, no, get out.
Which again is similar to the Batman story, and we'll get there as well. But the idea that you have a hero who would like to be doing something for his friends and family, but instead is dealing with a really homicidal, like insane individual.
Right. And it says your boys are going live right now, but hip hop is over here. He knows what's up.
Yeah.
They're only talking about Mortal Kombat. And then Peter and the girls leave. Harry is still on cloud 9 because he's like tripping over every word he's saying.
Right.
My favorite thing, and I love Gil Kane. He's my second favorite Spider-Man artist, but I can't stand the way he draws their hairline. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the story of Spider-Man comics is the story of bad hair drawings. Because I mean, I can crap on Todd McFarlane all day. That guy gives everybody this crazy curly bouffant thing going on. Like even Peter Parker's hair looks just insane. So yeah, it's kind of the way of this world,
right? And it's like MJ is a constant bedhead, but Harry's tripping. He's on cloud 9. He's enjoying himself a little bit. He's concerned about his dad, and his dad is just worried about protecting his life because that's Norman. He's always looking after himself, not necessarily his son. Yep. Which later down the road, especially in today's Spider-Man arc, is affecting it. No spoilers, but you can not read that run and you'll be fine. Spider-Man, he leaves and he's going to deliver a paper from where he recently was in Canada. He was battling the Hulk after he was told to go get pictures in Canada. He comes back. I don't know why they called it the London flu. He was not in London. He was in Canada. But I guess there are a lot of different names for countries of different illnesses, and this one just happens to be the London flu.
I just think it's great, too, that we know that J. Jonah Jameson would be willing to wear masks and is trying to be COVID safe.
Take it apart as he's destroying his lungs. I like it.
I mean, he may have a Hitler mustache, but at least he knows what's proper etiquette with germs.
Right. Just get this diseased menace out of here. It's almost like he knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He talks to them the same way.
Right.
But you just see Peter, he's like, all of a sudden he's sick, not when he was visiting Harry, right? That's the last thing you want to do is be around someone who's tripping on LSD, right. With the London flu. Ryan, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, I think I really like the art in this issue, and I really I love and hate the way J. Jonah Jameson looks. Like he just looks like a frog on cocaine. He looks absolutely insane. And honestly, I just love the way Peter looks. Quite frankly, I think it's kind of the definitive Peter Parker look, kind of a mix of this could be a modern day teenager, but also very much still stuck in the 50s.
Yes, I agree. Peter's character is very complex. There's always something with the dude. All right. And then Norman goes for a little trip of his own, just like Harry. Harry's like, he's in bed now. He's completely gone. And Norman just starts tripping and going insane. He's like seeing Spider-Man. I think that's what Harry's supposed to do, start seeing things. But
yeah.
But it's Norman, and you can just tell that like the relationship between him and Peter or him and Spider-Man, just like Jen puts it, a frog on cocaine. Mr. Link chiming in on one of his most Guy Gardner's his favorite lantern.
Unrelated, but I agree.
I disagree strongly, but hey, there's no losers in a Green Lantern discussion.
Yeah, there's 45 of them just for mirth, so
right. We seem to have a lot of guys covering us, even though we tend to have a lot of problems too.
Yeah.
Right. But Darkseid only comes once every reboot. And then Green Goblin. This is like the classic panel where Green Goblin comes in. He attacks Gwen Stacy. He goes to Spider-Man's home. He's going with the intent to kill Spider-Man. Sneak up on him, which I don't think he knows that Spider-Man has a spider sense. I'm sure he does, but I don't. And then this is the Bronze Age. I don't think it made sense then.
No, I mean, yeah.
He ends up taking Gwen Stacy hostage, and Spider-Man comes back, sees the lantern on his desk, right under her purse, and he's like, I know who did this, obviously. You know, he left a note and everything. So this is a very iconic panel, especially the one in the bottom right. John, this is your favorite book, so how would you just go full speed on this one?
I mean, the look of the villain in that pose when he's flying in, it's just so boss, and I love the smoke cloud behind him and the panel underneath. I think it's just just really powerful, really dynamic, and I do feel like this is the era when drawings of Spider-Man were at their best. Like for me, anything in that Ramita in that era when Ramita was at least involved with the book is always just phenomenal.
Right. Until Mark Bagley. And then
I'm not gonna speak for Bagley. Honestly, I'm not a McFarlane fan. I like Eric Larson more than all those guys, but that's just me.
That's a different conversation. Ryan, what are you thinking about this book? You know, you got Gwen in there, she's getting kidnapped.
I completely agree. I completely agree with everything said about Spider-Man. I think he looks absolutely perfect, and this is my favorite, drawing of Spider-Man. But something with Gwen, the women, and I think Gwen even more than Mary Jane, she's very much idealized in this, and that's kind of like going along with her character, like in the sense of Gwen was never really a real character, in the sense of like she was just kind of like this stand-in, and you see that in the sense of she's just this cookie cutter perfect blonde-haired woman for Spider-Man to save.
Right, that's all she really was. I really don't think her character got a whole lot of depth. I think that it was planned on very early for her to not be the lasting Spider-Man girlfriend.
Right.
Which very much makes sense. You have enough attachment to her. Not spoiling anything. We're getting there page by page. Here's Bryce with his. I don't know who Ramina is, but Kane and Bagley I recognize. Ramita. For me, Bagley is my favorite, and then Gil Kane. And then I want to say JR with JMS was very iconic. Deodato was very iconic too.
I do love the JR.
Bagley's
been
on the book long enough to have a legacy.
Absolutely. I mean, especially when you throw in the Miles Morales stuff. I mean, it's hard to argue.
Ultimate Spider-Man is something for new readers to always get introduced to if they're looking for a Spider-Man story.
For sure.
Marvel would print the trades.
But yet still awful hair.
They're reprinting the omnibus though. It's
great. I can't wait to drop an incredible amount of money when I could just, wait to get my trades. Hey, say what you want about DC, but they make some damn good trades, and they print a lot of them.
I've been buying the hardcovers of that Ultimate Spider-Man run, and I think I'm only like 2 shy of having the full Ultimate Spider-Man run before Miles shows up.
Mm-hmm. I will give you my shipping address. All right. So Spider-Man, he goes chasing after Gwen. It's the woman he loves. She's getting kidnapped, and he's not really freaking out though. Like he's staying very calm throughout this whole situation. I don't know if that's because of the London flu or anything. Him so mellow, but he knows who Norman Osborn's favorite president is, so he knows to go to that bridge. So that's where we go, and Norman's just sitting there waving at him, like you're at a football game or at a basketball game, and you see your best friend, all the way on the other side of the arena. He's like, "I'm right over here." Right. I love the way the bridge is drawn. Obviously, like New York was drawn very well back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
What happened? Mm-hmm. They were there day in and day out.
And I will say that was one of the things I loved most, even if it wasn't perfectly executed, was about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. The first one was the way they captured some of the sequences from this comic, almost like panel for panel, a couple of the shots. I know they did it at night, and there's these other elements, but like it was it was amazing how quickly I felt like I was back to this comic reading it for the first time.
Right. I agree 100%. This book is supposed to be at night. That's what the ending will say. Spoilers, but they were in broad daylight right now. Daylight savings wasn't a thing back then. Ryan, what do you think? Sorry, Ryan, what's going on through your head right now?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Sam Raimi movies, and I think Sam Raimi, he basically said, all right, let's make this feel the most like a comic book come to life. And you can see it. You can see it. Both this book and those movies are just fantastic. They feel cinematic and grandeur, and it's beautiful.
100%, man. This is one of the best foreshadowing we've gotten so far in the Spider-Man run. I think this sequence alone was very pivotal and a big game changer. The way that they're even going to tell stories going forward with great power. Old. I don't know why I put comes twice, but I need to go back and do a little bit more editing. I threw this together at work. But anyway, we're getting the iconic battle sequence between Spider-Man and Norman. He's like, Spider-Man's fighting sick, so obviously he's a little bit weaker, and he ends up knocking Norman off his glider, but then he doesn't realize that Norman made some special upgrades. This sequence of action is phenomenal. You got everything there. The panels are very laid out very well. They all connect. And it's very easy to read this sequence and still be into the action, knowing exactly what happens.
Right.
Ryan, what do you think, bro?
Yeah, that one panel of Spider-Man just cowing, for lack of a better term, Green Goblin. It's just fantastic. You can see they've made it. He's obviously struggling. It's personal now, and he has to do what he needs to do to save the ones he loves.
Right, 100%. All right, and then we have the end. This is towards the end of the story. Gwen Stacy yet again is falling for Spider-Man. That is no pun intended.
Yes, definitely.
Green Goblin gets back onto his glider and he knocks her off. And she's falling down, and this is where Spider-Man. Now, if you did see the movie with Andrew Garfield, this is exactly what happened. He shoots his web, but at the same time, she hits her head on the side of the bridge, so her neck just snaps in half.
The theory I heard was that she was already dead, because we don't see her move at all.
Exactly, in the sense of it doesn't matter if she was if Spider-Man couldn't have saved her, and that's right. The point. Her neck would have been snapped regardless of what happened.
Yeah.
Right, because it said that she was dazed in the beginning of this whole sequence. But, that's the Alan Moore theory.
Yeah.
Killing joke. Bryce says, gosh, Brandon, show some empathy. Come on, man. I mean, if I have the chance to make a pun, I'm going to take it.
Take it. Take your shot.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know Magic Lasso, but he's the king of that.
He is. He definitely is.
But this sequence is beautiful. It's not beautiful, but it's one of the most powerful things, especially because this is the reaction of Spider-Man. He believes that he saved her, but he didn't. Okay, so reading this for the first time, it hits hard, right? Because think about losing somebody that's so close to you, just having the chance to save them. You just missed it. John, what was your first reaction when you read this book?
I mean, I'm sad to say that I wasn't somebody reading the issues at the time, so I didn't have the love of Gwen Stacy before this. But I had read this in a collected volume that included several key Gwen Stacy issues, and then these, and then the Fallout issues that went after. And it's just a beautifully done arc, and this is such a heartbreaking moment. It's really just supremely well executed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I after we review both the books, I like to talk about comparisons or whatever. But just briefly, I really like how basically these deaths aren't directly the hero's fault, if that makes sense. in the sense of Spider-Man, the Green Goblin says it, no matter what he did, she would have died. Batman wasn't even there. It was Jason's own hubris that basically got him killed. And I think that's really powerful because it's not just my abilities weren't strong enough, but my philosophy and everything else gets called into question. I was born in 2002, so I was a little bit too young for the Sam Raimi movies when they were coming out. But I did watch both Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies in the theaters. And, I have my problems with The Amazing Spider-Man too, like most people, but I think it's undeniable that they really capture that really, really well. And it's heartbreaking because you get to know these characters. And if you're reading the comics, for so long, I only knew Emma Stone for 2 movies and it was heartbreaking. But it's absolutely heartbreaking.
Bryce says this issue where before or after Norma got her pregnant, never mind that ever happened. It did.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
You didn't watch Tag Team Thursday a few weeks ago.
That's what I really want to talk about after we review both issues. The legacy.
And now we're here. I don't know how that got there. I'm so sorry. But
look at that hair. Look at Peter's hair. Come on. What is going on there? What the heck?
They're going for the early 90s Leonardo DiCaprio, but it doesn't land.
No, not at all.
I think my favorite part of Ultimate Spider-Man was when she just pukes on him after she realized he's 14?
Yeah.
I don't like that Doom either for Black Cat. I don't. Maybe it's just me.
I don't like Black Cat the character. Period. I think she's just horrible.
I don't like. I like the way she looks. I don't like the way she is.
Well, sure.
I like.
But she's poor man's Catwoman. Let's just.
I was about to say she's just worse Catwoman.
Catwoman is way more interesting, way better as a character, way better drawn half the time, and I care what happens to Selena Kyle.
Absolutely.
But, Black Cat has everything coming on herself. You robbed Doctor Strange, but tomorrow, what is going on, sir? How are you doing? Glad to see you here. And then we're on to Batman, so I will turn it over to Ryan to lead us through this one.
All right, so let's arguably the most heartbreaking issue in all of comic books. Let's talk about.
And Batman. We have nobody to blame but ourselves for calling in that number.
You watching this video, you are responsible for this. I don't know whether to hate you or thank you because of what spawned after. But no, let's talk about Batman 428. So it's by the incredible writer Jim Starlin and pencils by Jim Aparo. You're gonna sparsely find a better creative team, quite frankly. Interesting enough, the editor on the Batman book at this time is Denny O'Neil. So a little kind of cool thing to and I know there was a lot of. I'm not really sure. I know there was something where Denny O'Neil either wanted to kill Jason Todd or he very firmly did not want to kill Jason Todd. I don't. It's one or the other. But I'm not really sure. So that's just an interesting thing. So we start off. Obviously Batman was driving up in the last issue, and he finds the warehouse where.
Sorry, I was telling Chad. Chad, don't tell Storm. Don't tell Storm.
Ooh. But basically.
Storm all the way. It's always Storm.
Tuesdays are for Storm.
Yeah, this is Monday.
It's Monday. But we Batman, he shows up to the warehouse and he's kind of very frantic. He really is looking around, kind of questioning everything. Because, Batman, any opportunity he has to question himself, he'll do it. And his philosophy, he's so firm, but he's also so fragile, which is really interesting. Now, what I'll go into this more at the end, but what I think the first half of this book is absolutely fantastic. Now, if we move on, we see the flashbacks of Jason Todd's origin. Obviously he stole the tires off the Batmobile, which I think is, in my opinion, my favorite Robin origin of all of them. I'm
just bummed that they had to do it retroactively. Like they had already introduced him and he was already Robin, and they're like, we need a better backstory. And then the cover of that issue is great. I ended up buying one of those. Great cover with him hijacking the wheels off the car. So I just wish they'd have thought of it in the moment when they
yeah.
first launched that character.
Right,
so
right.
It's fantastic. Now, what did you guys think of? Because I think this is probably the best part of the book. The flashbacks of he's being taken to Wayne Manor, he's being trained, all that.
Personally, I really enjoy this backstory. Obviously, this is like the better version of the backstory, and we're only like a page into this book. What happened in the previous issue, for those of you guys who have not read this, is you got the crowbar scene where Joker basically Jason Todd went looking for his mom. He found her. She's working for Joker, and he gets lured into a trap, gets beaten by a crowbar, and the building blows up. The warehouse blows up. And now we're dealing with it because you never know in comics whether they're alive or dead. It's like Schrodinger's cat. You got to open the box. And that's what we're doing, essentially. We're opening the box to see if the cat is alive or dead. No spoilers. Even though this is...
The cat's dead. The cat's dead. That's a spoiler.
Sorry, it's dead.
I will say, too, I love the way they draw Batman. This is the, I don't know, my era of Batman. I like the brighter colored suit. I don't care for the Batfleck style that I think is really popular now, where it's got to be super gray and he's got to be like this huge, like, I don't know, he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger size, like just really big. I always liked him lank, a little lean.
Mhm.
And this is just the way I picture Batman for sure. And I love these like training sequences and how he's thinking back through. It was just a really well handled set of like 3 or 4 pages.
Absolutely. And I think the art in this, just piggybacking off of that, is fantastic, especially when Batman's in profile. You see, like, on the first slide, you see the cowl wrapping around his face. You see the ears. It looks fantastic.
Right, 100%. And Bryce, did you want to talk about these 2 pages a little bit more? Lasso, just speaking of you, I tried messaging Comixkings. He's doing a live stream. #fail. I'll get you after.
Two-Face, I will say, has always been one of my favorite villains, and I do like the like connections between Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Two-Face. I've always really enjoyed that relationship. I wish he'd had a bigger part in this, but of course, this is a Joker story, so it's got to be Joker.
Absolutely, and I love the I'm a romantic. I'm a sucker for those kind of moments, those corny moments. But when Batman was like, he basically, Jason Todd beat up Two-Face and then he walked away. He didn't finish the job, and I was so proud of him. Wholesome moment there.
Yeah, the proud father moment, especially for characters in this case, both who don't have parents.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
a nice way to have that happen.
Did
Absolutely.
Batman smile in the bottom right? I didn't think he did.
He did.
You'll never see that in a movie.
And they almost covered it with a dialogue, a little word bubble.
Oh, covered the beard or the goatee, the lack thereof. And then
that's my kind of headcanon. I don't know. Like, I think Batman, not to say that he didn't care about the others, but I think he cared about Jason a little bit more than the other ones, just because he felt like a moral response. Maybe that's just my own biases, but I just feel like he saw this kind of roughed up kid and he was very protective of him. But
certainly, I think it was a bigger gamble, and it was a harder diamond in the rough kind of situation, in the sense that this was a kid that was clearly living a life of crime.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You look at Dick Grayson, and that kid did not have an interest in crime. There was never going to be an option of Dick Grayson going on to crime. Instead, it was a kid who had lost a really good home versus Jason Todd, who'd never really had it. And I think so that makes it obviously a way more challenging situation.
Right. And then going into this page, Batman found Jason's mother, and she's stringing by a pole. And
I could give a rat's ass about her. She screwed Jason over in the previous issue. If you haven't read it, she's the one that like leads him to the Joker. Like, she blows it. So mom can just choke on it for me. Like, I have don't care about her at all in this moment.
I hate Sheila Hayward. Think about Jason. Your entire life, your mother is not your mother, and then you finally find your real mother, and she sells you out to be beaten to death, pretty much.
And then you give your life to like try to save her,
right? Just because it was your mom, and it's like, oh, the trip would have been worth nothing if I didn't find her.
Yeah,
you
and in her last
strong,
moment,
at least.
Yeah, in her last moment, she's like, "He's such a good boy." I'm like, yeah, no thanks to you.
You're such a crap mom.
Yeah, like, my God.
I'll do it anyway. Travis says smash that like button, and yes, make sure you guys like, subscribe to the channel. Great little plug. Make sure you're subbed up to Ryan and John. I put both their links in the description. Both doing great things on YouTube. You can catch Ryan tomorrow for Wednesday Warriors with his partner Chad, his cousin. And then you can catch, or no, Wednesday, not tomorrow.
It's Monday. You're on the Tuesday vibe already.
Because I'm so used to being on a stream with John on Tuesdays and screen on Mondays. John, you're throwing me off.
Sorry, it's all my bad. I did just subscribe to Ryan this morning, so I'm now subscribed.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So yeah, basically we get, Batman finding Sheila Hayward, talking about, the classic comic books. This is what happened in the last few issues.
Right. I just wanted Batman to lay his hand over her mouth and just smother her at the last second. Like, okay, good. Shush, sleep now. Sleep.
John just punches her in the face.
Right. Where's my son?
And
Fable says Ryan is awesome.
I appreciate it.
I'm talking about X-Men. Ryan's the man.
But we and something I know, we get the silence if you see on the second of the 2 pages.
Yeah.
Sheila Hayward, she dies, and then Batman is silently walking through the rubble. And I imagine if I was reading this, when it came out, my heart would be pounding. Just the silence. Yeah, and then we see Jason,
right? Yeah.
Absolutely mangled. As graphic as you probably could be back then. He is. I mean, he's clearly incredibly injured.
Still remembers Ryan.
Yeah, I remember reading. So like this, I was 11 when this came out, and I was definitely picking these up. I read through my trade and my issues of this like several times. And it just that moment when you're like, damn, Robin can die?
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to be Robin. I never wanted to be Batman because I was like, I'm not going to be able to be Batman. Yeah. But I could be the kid that hangs out with Batman.
Yeah, that'd be so cool, right, John?
And then you're like, oh crap, I don't want to be the kid that hangs out with Batman.
No. not when you're going up against Joker. What is going on, Shadow Hawk? Thank you, first time you're being here today on the show. Thank you so much. And Night Thrasher, another newcomer to Comixkings. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And
yeah, I'm trying to be honest.
Yeah. I just want to speak on this sequence, these 2 pages real quick. This is where Batman kind of really truly feels lost for the first time.
Yeah.
Right? You can go through Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' iconic run, probably the best Batman run of all time. 100%. But I don't think Batman really ever experienced loss. Like in this book,
I will say, Hillbilly, my mom would not let me dial the number, so I'm sorry. It didn't happen. I did not dial. I'm sorry.
You did not dial the number.
I don't know what I would have picked to keep him alive. I think just because I was always super interested in the Robin characters. So like Dick Grayson was obviously my first Robin. He was like the cool Robin for me. But so I would have saved him. I'd like to think.
Yeah.
But then we would be missing out on this. If he lived, this would have been a totally forgettable story, I think.
Oh yeah. So with hindsight, I probably would have voted him for die. He gets the iconic story of dying, him coming back, and now I think he's a fantastic character in his own right.
Yes, Red Hood is a cool character.
Yes. We move on. What I think is incredibly interesting is so Sheila Hayward, she gets last words. She's talking, my boy, I'm so proud of him, whatever. Batman finds Jason. He's already dead. He doesn't get a final word, which is I read that. I was like, wow, that's cold. Like
just like Gwen Stacy though, right? In the same kind of way, you get like the hero not getting the chance to have a moment. Instead, they're already dead. Didn't even have a chance.
Exactly. And it's, I again, my own bias taken into account. This is probably my favorite Batman image of all time. I love him holding, the mangled corpse of Robin, his son, basically.
All right, let's go back.
And just Batman's face, if you can see it on there. I have never seen, Batman in all his brooding and anguish and angst. That is probably the saddest, most powerful Batman face I've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
100%. Quick shout out to Chad, the Canadian Geek, who actually made this block behind me. You can see him over at Comic Block. Let me just share myself real quick. Made this block. I got a few more others that I'm going to be posting up tonight, so definitely hit him up. Comic Block. I'm going to be posting them again today, so big shout out to him. He's in the chat. If you guys do want to block, hit him up because his spots do fill up pretty quickly. And let's get over to the next page where Joker goes on to do what he's doing next. All right, so Ryan, you can speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, now I want to talk about it more, but I think this is where this story starts to waver a little bit. And I would like to when we compare them at the end. But basically, throughout the story, Joker's been accruing supplies and weapons and laughing gas, and he was doing Joker things, and then he's meeting with his people. They turn out to be the Iranian Secret Service, which I was like, hold on a minute, this just took a wild turn. Like, we went from the death of a child to some like wacky kind of international Interpol kind of stuff going on.
Well, that's the reason why he's over there. He's like, I'm going to take over this broke area. He was ahead of the time. I guess current events have taken after Joker. It's
like Argo, but as a Batman comic.
Right. And then moving on.
Yes, this kind of floored me for a second. So the Iranian Secret Service is like, we want you to meet our boss. And then this is clearly a picture of the Ayatollah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it kind of dates the book because it's so clearly a historical figure. This is where Jim Starlin basically he's weaving in his political message and his international politics message within this iconic story. And I think he knew it was going to be iconic. And that's why he wove this kind of like, the Iranians are kind of working with the bad.
Yeah. Who's worse than the Joker? These guys.
Yeah, these guys.
And you know what? I'm sure he would say the same thing if he got to write the book today. But I like the focus on it. It makes it very iconic. It makes it stand out in the artwork, just kind of saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." And then Bruce is obviously doing his investigation. Travis,
I will say, this hurts the book for me. I'm not as big a fan of Batman in other cities. Like I like my Batman in Gotham, and if this story had taken place in Gotham, it might be one of the greatest Batman stories ever told. If it is all in Gotham, just imagine it. But some of this stuff, I'm like, they're running around fighting terrorists, and it's like, where's Superman? Just call Superman. He'd clean this up in a second. What are you guys doing?
Well, they don't call Superman, but the CIA does.
Yeah, but I was gonna, since we're on the topic now, I really want to bring this up. So I mention it every show. It's kind of become a running joke. Jason Todd, he's my favorite comic book character. So, but for me to say this about this story, I mean it. I really think that I completely agree with John that if this whole kind of wacky Joker becoming, and spoilers for the rest, Joker becoming a diplomat and just these random stuff, I think it really, you watch any comic book YouTuber who reviews this book, they're going to say that this stuff doesn't really work. And I completely agree. And what I was going to say about this issue, when I say the first half of the issue works really well, I think I stand by that in the sense of, if this was a whole issue about Batman reminiscing about his time with Jason Todd, and imagine if that iconic Batman image of him holding Robin was the last page of the issue. I think that would genuinely be one of the best single issues of Batman of all time, just reminiscing about his time, worrying whether he's alive or dead. We don't really get that. We get like 4 pages.
And this stuff here, like the funeral, the moments with Alfred, talking about how to cover up that he is Robin and the ways they have to manipulate the stories, that's the jam here for sure.
Yeah, right. Brendan, if you want to talk about what your thoughts are on that.
I didn't like this funeral.
I
think it was a stupid funeral. Hal Jordan got a better funeral, and Jason Todd's better.
But like the difference being that this is not Robin's funeral. This is a little orphan kid's funeral. So there's nobody coming to this thing but Alfred and Bruce.
You can have the Bat family. I mean, hell, you got Barbara there in her wheelchair. Obviously, you can call Dick Grayson and he will be there. You know, you have
Dick Grayson's like, screw that kid.
That's interesting because I'm very much I love the brother thing going on with the Robins. You know, like when they call each other brothers, a tear sheds.
Yeah.
But Dick Grayson's omission from this, I feel now. Again, I wasn't reading Batman at this time, and besides the story, I'm not incredibly knowledgeable about this era in Batman's history. But I feel like Dick Grayson would be there. You know what I mean? Just by his character.
And I don't know where in this fit in with the Teen Titans Nightwing stuff where Dick Grayson was in DC at the time. So there may be a reason, but it's definitely an odd omission.
Right.
Because I feel like, like this event, this is bringing them together. And there's a one-off line like, you want me to call Dick? And Batman's like, I'll do this alone. But it's like, well, then why is he not at the funeral? Like, but yeah, I really think the Jason stuff works really well, whereas the Joker stuff is a bit, it dates the book really. And I think that's what genuinely holds it back from being that year one, Dark Knight Returns, iconic Batman story.
Totally. I totally agree.
And
I love the art, by the way, here when Superman lands, like the way they draw Batman and Superman. That's just fantastic. Love that page.
You wanted a Superman. You wanted Superman to come, and he does. You know,
as typical with Superman, too late.
Always too late.
Drop the address for Batman to go because he wants there to be a conflict with Batman and the government. He wants Batman to know that he is untouchable and exempt from the law. Batman can't interfere with Joker's grand return to the States.
Right.
And Superman's there to tell him you can't touch him.
And I think it's hilarious that this, I mean, I don't know how, I don't remember where this particular issue, there's probably one more after this issue, so we don't get the resolution, but like,
this is part
all this, nobody is around them. All this took was 2 seconds for Clark to like say his plan. Hey, by the way, I'm going to dress as a security guard just in case anything goes down. So you don't need to worry about it. I'm going to be there. It's no big deal.
No.
But he doesn't do that. He doesn't have that move. He's like, I know you just lost somebody and you feel the need for revenge, but don't do it.
Right.
Not I'm there for you and I'm going to be there for you, but like, just don't. And it's like, why? Nobody, come on, man. Come on.
And then that works.
This is the kind of crap that makes you hate Superman.
Exactly.
Come on.
They say 2 words to each other, and then they think they can just start throwing punches. I'm sorry, Batman. Superman is is a much better fighter in every way, shape, and form. He has everything else that you don't. You're
right. I wouldn't phrase it like that because I don't think Superman's a better fighter. But I understand what you mean.
Look, if Batman is fighting someone who is formidable in hand-to-hand combat, he's gonna win. But you can't do that against someone who you can't even touch. You can't even hurt.
Yeah.
It takes DC to make a new villains to hurt Superman because they never had it before.
It's true.
But
today, like a Darkseid, they'll look at Dr. Manhattan. Those are the only 3 people who could hurt him. I don't care what none of y'all say. Batman won't be able to touch Superman unless he gets his hands on kryptonite.
That kryptonite ring, just pop him a couple times with that.
And he used to buy it from Lex Luthor. So
no, he doesn't. He's got that in the belt. You know that's in the belt somewhere.
Superman gave it to him.
Because he knows he's going to need it.
Yeah.
So, why did you say her name? Probably the worst line in every single movie. If there was an Oscar for worst movie quote, that would be there. Why did you say her name? Don't give me that look, Ryan. It's stupid.
No, I think it's. We don't
want to derail into Snyderverse. We really don't.
No. I'm not a Snyder fan. All right, you have Batman killing your movies. I'm not going to be a fan. But the point is I think if Batman didn't kill, all right, in that movie, and then that line was actually relatively well understood, because I do think there's people who don't understand it, it would have landed better than Batman's a murderer and he's about to murder one more person, and then he realizes, oh, well, murdering's bad, and then he murders more people. That's my thought.
And DC never learns.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we end with Batman punching Superman, and then he's like, and then Joker shows up and he's like, I'm the new diplomat from Iran.
I love the red on the shadows of Batman and Superman in that. That's cool.
And the details in that artwork is phenomenal.
Yeah. Great panel or great splash page.
It's fantastic. And
Murdering Batman is a great Batman. I'd say he's a great Punisher, but that's just.
I like Joker's outfit. I think that's the funniest part.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's just completely ridiculous. And that's where this wraps up. You got to go read part 4, which to me doesn't really end the story well. I would have, like Ryan said earlier, I ended with him holding Jason.
I completely agree with you. I think everything in that last issue does not end well, except for the last panel. I do really like how Starlin leaves it unresolved in the sense of Batman. So if you pick up this book, you might think, oh, Batman's just going to be sad and whatever. Batman really isn't sad throughout this entire book, except for that one page. He's angry. Like he
holds it back.
Exactly. And I think, in this trade of Death in the Family, you get A Lonely Place of Dying, which is obviously Tim Drake's introduction. And Batman is much more melancholy in that. But Batman is angry, and he's like, not that I'm going to kill the Joker, but he's like, Joker's going down. I'm staying with him. Like, we're going to die together, and I'm happy. Yeah. And then it's left unresolved. And I think that's, if Batman had closure, the impact of Jason's death wouldn't have been what it was. So I think the unresolved nature is fantastic. But I do think the story suffers. Like, reading this now is really, it's not that kind of year one Dark Knight Returns page turner where everything is iconic. It's, you get iconic sections, but the story as a whole doesn't really work as well for me as some other books.
100%, man. I completely agree with you. Obviously, this was a great reason for all of us to break out our trades. Honestly, it's on the reread list for sure. So, I mean, I have my trade. It's back in my library. I'm not gonna go get it now, but now it is time to choose Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame. This is where we get to be comparing the stories. John, do you want to get first crack at comparing the two?
Yeah, I mean, I these are great picks because I think in both cases you're talking about having a huge amount of time pass and not bringing the characters back. The lasting impact on two heroes having a just an iconic failure. It rippled through these comics for decades. And in the case of our Peter Parker, it's still going because they never brought that Gwen back. They brought, Spider-Gwen back. And in the case of Jason Todd, I love the way they used Hush and Red Hood as ways to kind of bring him back in the right way. And again, for those that want a Batman that kills, read Red Hood because that's what that is. Like, that's the whole point. I think you see how Jason would get to that place. So I love these deaths and what they mean long term.
Right.
Just to piggyback off that, Jason Todd, and specifically when he just came back as a villain, Under the Red Hood, Battle for the Cowl, Batman and Robin Reborn, a bunch of the Morrison stuff. It's essentially, if you want to argue with people who like Snyder's movies, you have to read those because it's why Batman shouldn't kill, because Jason becomes a killing Batman and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's that dynamic of those two characters as adults, builds from this real powerful story. And so on that level, they are really wonderful comparisons. For me, what I think I like more about the Spider-Man story is it's simpler. There's not as much like political intrigue kind of stuff going on. There are definitely weak moments when I'm like, okay, he says things like, you dig? And like, there's this moment like, okay, I don't need to hear Spider-Man with slang. Like, I don't need that. The visuals of the fight on the bridge. And then of course, in the next issue, in the fight with Green Goblin, I think it's just really New York. It just feels like New York. And that's a great element to have in these. It's a simple little 2-issue arc. So for me, I definitely lean Spider-Man on this one, but it's there's no losers here.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a loser, unfortunately. Ryan, you want to go next?
Okay, so when Brandon and I talk about what we want for the show, we wanted what is inside these pages. So if you had the floppy issue, what's from page 1 to the last page, that's what we want to grade on Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame.
Price tag removed.
And even overall impact. Like if we completely ignore that and said which one is more impactful, I would actually say the death of Jason Todd. We got Red Hood, who's an incredibly popular character. It's part of the most popular comic book character, Batman, probably one of his most defining moments. It's shaped the DC universe. Whereas the death of Gwen Stacy, we got sins past, but other than that, yeah, it affects Peter. But if you read a Spider-Man comic, you're probably not going to hear anything off about it. And I think it's
other women.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really interesting how one of these characters, their legacy was touched or they was brought back, and it was incredibly well received. I mean, Red Hood is incredibly popular, whereas, Gwen Stacy, her legacy was touched. She was brought back, and Sins Past is considered one of the worst Spider-Man stories for a long time.
I wouldn't say it's the worst. I'd say it's
people do not like it.
For me, the character of Gwen Stacy as Spider-Gwen, I think, is the more iconic vision of how to use that character reborn, and the reason why that Edge of Spider-Verse animated film works in a lot of ways is her and Miles and that, but it's like another generation. It's not this Gwen. And I think ever bringing and touching this Gwen to come back in any way is foolish. It doesn't work the same way as Robin because she wasn't a superhero. There's no reason to be bringing her back.
And he already has enough love interest as it is, and I think you're absolutely right. Now, just from what I just said, I would, and you guys know it pains me, I would put the death of Jason Todd in the Hall of Fame. I really would, but ironically, I would put the first half of Batman in the Hall of Fame, and then the second half of Spider-Man in the Hall of Fame. But I think as a single issue, no legacy, no characters, whatever.
Right.
As a single issue, the death of Gwen Stacy is much more timeless, and it works better. I think, like I said, I think the first half of the Jason Todd stuff is great, and that iconic image, I think that's fantastic. But the stuff, the fact that I say we have a picture of the Ayatollah in the same issue that Batman holds Jason Todd's lifeless body. I mean, you think I'm joking, and that's, I think that really ruins it.
It's funny. It's funny. It's like funny humor. It's not. It's funny, but it's not funny. You know what I'm trying to say.
It's funny in the sense of how did that happen? You're gonna and trust me, I've read a bunch of interviews on this. They knew this story was going to be iconic. They knew it. Because they were going to kill Jason Todd no matter what. There was stories of somebody had a bot ringing the kill line over and over. I think they were probably going to kill Jason Todd.
1980.
The issue was already called Death in the Family, so I mean, it would have been really hard to pull a Louis on that one.
I mean, you could have just kept his mom dead. Death in the family. Death in his family.
I think under the Red Hood, I think it improves the Under the Red Hood storyline. But I also think it kind of improves the Jason Todd death. It gets rid of Sheila Hayward, who's horrible. It kind of gets rid of the Joker in the Iran situation. And it just kind of makes it Ra's. I actually love how Ra's al Ghul's I never wanted this to happen. He's a man of respect. And it highlights the Joker is just a madman. He's going to kill a child and have no second thought.
Yeah.
So I'm not even gonna say who's in the Hall of Shame, but I'm gonna put the death of Gwen Stacy in the Hall of Fame.
Ryan, I'm so proud of you and so surprised. Big shout out to this guy right here in the chat, Costa Rican and his comics, Rod. 2 years in the comic community. Sub up Rod. He is one of the best, most genuine people that I'm sure John and I know. Ryan, I don't know if you had the pleasure of meeting Rod. But Rod, if you need a lame or framed dude who can draw very poorly, Ryan got you. That's stagger price, Ryan. But I love this comment. Joker and adding and get coffee sometime.
Right.
Fable chimed in. We had Chamorro chime in earlier saying they're both Hall of Fame, and he would sacrifice himself.
I agree.
Says Hall of Fame goes to ASM. Her death changed Spidey and has endured for years. I could say the same about
Jason
And what
Todd.
Ryan said earlier, I think you really have to look at, obviously if you're talking about which death has been more impactful on the industry, I would say Jason Todd 100%, simply because into the man that we see him today, and the fact that we had a story written by Jeff Johns, the same man who brought Red Hood back, still with this unresolved closure of his death is iconic enough. He dies, he comes back, Batman doesn't know what to do, so Barbara Gordon kisses him, and he thinks they're dating. Worst story ever, but it means that there's still stuff to be said about this story. Because Gwen Stacy has come back from the Ultimate Universe, I don't think you can really say that
and I will say that there's a generational element to that, because the Ultimate Universe was, something like 5 decades after this book. So in that way, she lasted dead longer than Jason Todd lasted dead. And when I started reading books, she was always dead. Like I never really got to know her unless I was reading like some throwback issues or something like that. And for me, she was always like this, I don't want to say ghost in the background, but this cloud, hanging over Peter. And it would come up in issues where he would mention it. It was like rebooting him and getting away from Uncle Ben a little bit, because Uncle Ben kicked off him as Spider-Man, but the death of Gwen Stacy kicked off like him being his own man, and so for me, like when they brought Spider-Gwen back, I was one of the first people to go, you can't touch that. Like, what are you touching this for? Like, it's so good. And I was as pleased as anybody that it was actually decent.
Right.
But like for me, like she was always the dead one. Like it was a big deal that when the Ultimates decided to do something with it.
Right. And we're going based off what happened in the story, not necessarily impact. I'm saying if we looked at stuff years down the road, Jason Todd's death is still something that is talked about more so than Spider-Man. Obviously, the generational impact is in the way, but stories itself, I think this Gwen Stacy's death was done in a more effective manner. We got Johnny Boy in the chat. What up? What up? Thank you for tuning in. First time I'm reading your name on the show, so thank you so much for the support and love. I'm supposed to say like and subscribe to the channel, but if you're here, I'm sure you're doing that already. I'm just glad you guys are here today. So that's all I could ever ask you for. But definitely sub up those two. But for me, Hall of Fame is going to be ASM 121. Hall of Shame, Batman 428. The story just took a weird turn halfway through. That's what I'm going with real quick. And then let's kind of get into these plugs. Ryan, what do you have coming up on your show?
So, you guys like the Robins? You want to learn more? Hey, check out my How to Start Reading the Robins and Robins reading recommendations.
Nice.
Chad and I did that last week. Just released a video on Black Sad Volume 1, which was super cool. And, of course, we have our Wednesday Warriors, Chad and I do every Wednesday. And if you guys are like The Flash, DC, Daredevil, all that stuff, a lot of reviews coming on that. Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, I think, might be the next one, which is an absolutely fantastic read. So, yeah, definitely check it out.
And I will say, anybody who has a Thor poster and a Batman Forever poster on their wall is worthy of all your time, people.
Yes. Ryan is worthy of everything.
Look at that.
Ryan,
I love it.
Ryan's awesome. I can't say enough great things about him. He helped me out with this channel a lot when I was kind of going through the hiatus of I did not want to do that, of not having a co-host. So Ryan was awesome, and then Bryce too, who's been stepping in. That's this guy right here. Don't listen to what he just said. Jen likes your Swamp Thing, so she'll be there. But these guys are both great people, great friends, and I couldn't ask for better people to do these shows with. So definitely make sure you guys check out everything that they're doing. Now, over to the man that you guys probably came here to watch. John, what do you have going on, sir?
Oh, God, I hope not. Tomorrow, I'm hosting Omni X-Men with Brandon, and we're talking about issue 124, looking at Arcade and his crazy pinball game with the X-Men. And then, let's see, Wednesday, I'm on the Comic Core, and we're talking about New Comic Book Day. And Thursday, I drop my edited video. Every week, I drop the comic community news. part of Tag Team Thursday with Brandon, and we're looking at the spec stuff, the new comics, and the reviews of books. So if you want some little shenanigans and silliness, check out my comic community news.
For sure. And if you ever want to be a guest on his 3 little segment of what you're doing in the comic community, definitely hit him up. But you have to be funny.
That's just have fun with it. I mean, I have people walking in the desert. I got people at the gym. I got people doing all kinds of craziness.
Rod said that, Rod said I'm on the road to 150. Honestly, I don't even check the number of subs I have. I'm just grateful to have people that are watching. Goonie said he came in late. We all know Jason Todd's death was warranted. Maybe like Jeff Johns as a younger kid was planning everything from day one, saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is my master plan. And emailed him at like 5 years old saying, this is going in my binder that I probably have for reserve.
A way to turn that is that child should have died. That is essentially what they just said.
It's dark. It's definitely dark.
And then on my channel coming up, I have 3 Creators Corners to announce. I have not made graphics for the other 2. It's a little too early for them. I'll still talk about them. But on May 8th, if you guys have been reading Excalibur, John, I know what you're going to say. But Marcus Toe, the main artist on this book, is going to be sitting down. We're going to be talking about his experience drawing this book. You may also know him from Nightwing from Rebirth with Tim Seeley. He has done a lot of great work. And honestly, I'm super excited to talk about the love of the X-Men, especially the characters in Excalibur, like characters like Richter, Betsy Braddock, who are now getting some newfound love.
Apocalypse, man. They did some great stuff with Apocalypse in that Excalibur run.
And Saturn, she's still lingering. So, and with Hellfire Gala coming up, I'm super excited to be talking about this. This will be live on my YouTube Saturday, May 8th. And then on May 12th, Bryce and I, once again, that's this guy who is, again, every time I highlight, he's calling me out.
That's what your friends are for.
Yeah, that's what friends are for. We're going to be talking with Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad. They are the current creative team on the Wonder Woman book, which has been a fantastic run in Infinite Frontier. It's the only Wonder Woman book I've ever had on a pull list, which shows it enough love. And then the following Saturday, May 15th, legend Will Spartacio will be on the show. So those are things I'm excited. And then, of course, Comic Gories on May 17th, 2 days later. A lot of stuff coming on. Oh, yeah, that's hosted by John.
Hey-o.
Sometimes. But anyway.
One last thing. So, Brandon, you sing my praises now. It is my turn to repay the favor. So Brandon, I never thought I DM'd Comixkings on Instagram back when I think they only had 100 followers on Instagram. And I was like, let's talk about All-Star Superman. And a lot of the reason I got into YouTube and sharing my opinions was because of Brandon. We talk pretty much every day, and I seriously, I can't thank him enough. I definitely wouldn't be sitting here. And he's introduced me to just some incredible people. As you guys know, leaving high school and going to college during this pandemic, it's really difficult to make new friends. And I haven't really met anyone at college, but I'm eternally thankful that I've been introduced to so many great members of the community, and everyone is just so nice. Even today, I've met someone new and absolutely an incredible person, and it was wonderful talking comics.
Nice until you shit on a giant size X-Men. But thank you, Ryan.
X-Men's not for everybody, just like Batman. You can't please everybody.
Oh yeah, Ryan and I talk mostly every day, right? And he hit me up after the Scott Abdel interview when we were still doing stuff on IGTV. But
yes, that was awesome. I don't appreciate the Jeff Johns slander, though. I will say that.
Bryce doesn't like it either. But yeah, and just big shout out to the community. Big shout out to John for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I know all you guys are subbed up to John, but if you ever need a Netflix binge, you can't find anything, just go to John's channel. And if you ever really need a Netflix binge, go to Ryan's, and then you can watch mine. But thank you guys so much for joining Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame. Once again, this is Brandon, Ryan, and John. We will catch you guys next time.